to week 17 of the Cheese and Alien show. Alien speaking here. Sorry, I had to start that off with what happened on Sunday with Dale Earnhardt Jr. finally breaking his winless streak. It's almost like if the Cubs were to win the World Series, if both of those happen this year, I'm pretty sure the world's going to explode. So, just thought I would start off with a nice fun little song now to start off with our shout outs. First one goes to Johanna Long. She finished 16th this weekend in the Nationwide Series, and she was finishing better than Danica. Of course, we know Danica had some problems, but I still love to give props to Johanna Long. She's run really well all year long so far, and she hardly gets noticed. And so the Cheese and I will gladly give her a shout out for the good work that she's doing. Next shout out goes to BK Racing. Landon Castle tied his best finish so far this season with 18th finishing Sunday, and then Travis Kloppel, he finished 26th in the race on Sunday. So a huge shout out to BK Racing. They're doing a great job over there for being a team that formed a month before the season truly started. Our last shout out goes to Austin Dillon. He did really well in the Nationwide race, and he has now moved up to second in points in the Nationwide Series. And he also finished 24th in the Cup race on Sunday. So huge shout out to him. He did a magnificent job driving this weekend. To talk about the Nationwide race, I want to start off with, we had the rookies, and like I kind of talked about with Danica, she kind of struggled, as did Brad Sweet, and so I have a nice little song for them. Yes, they had some spins going on this weekend. They just couldn't get control of their cars, and so had a nice little song picked out just for them. Next, I want to talk about Kenny Wallace. He has sponsorship for the race on Saturday, and unfortunately he has mucho problems. He didn't finish very well. He was out early, and so very sad to see such a wonderful driver, a wonderful person like Kenny Wallace to be out of the race so early and not be able to perform for his team like I know he wants to. It seems like we had a lot of negatives going on this weekend. We had Kenny Wallace, we had all those spins. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., again, having tons of problems with this car. I mean, it seemed like there were too many to name as far as what he had going on, but he's struggling again. I think that's the third week in a row. And so now he's fallen to third in the Nationwide standings. So I'm hoping his luck can turn around real soon so that he can be back in contention for the title again. We had, of course, we all know of the big wreck that happened between Josh Richards and Jamie Dick. And we had I don't know if a robot jumped in the car or something, but we had a runaway car. They got the 39 off of the other car, and it just, with the banking, it just went down the track. Even an official tried to hold on to it, but knew he wouldn't be able to keep up with it. So luckily, even though it was a runaway car, luckily everyone was watching out, and it didn't hit anything. It didn't hit any other of the work vehicles, and so it was just kind of funny to see that happen. But I'm very happy that no one got injured because of that. No other damage. So, and finally with the Nationwide race, we all know, of course, Joey Logano gets his 5th Nationwide win for the season, and the other Joe Gibbs Racing cars, they all finished in the top 10. Of course, Logano won. Michael McDowell finished 7th in the 20 car, and then Brian Scott finished 9th. So JGR had a very strong day Saturday, and then we get to Sunday with a Cup race. None of those JGR cars finished in the top 30. Logano, of course, got loose and You know, Gilliland had nowhere to go, so got into him. Casey Kane, nowhere to go, so got into Gilliland. And so, of course, Logano was out. And then Denny Hamlin, we all know, catches on fire. And so he finished, so Logano ended up in 35th, and Denny Hamlin finished 34th. And then Kyle Busch had a ton of engine problems, and he finished 32nd. So it was a very odd day for the Joe Gibbs racing cars. Have to give huge props to Marcus Ambrose. Here's another shout out, Marcus Ambrose winning the pole for the race on Sunday. Great job. I cannot wait to see you back in victory lane. You're such a fantastic driver, and so I cannot wait for the day when you get back into victory lane and get that second cup win. Like I talked about with the nationwide race, we had a lot of negatives that happened there. A lot of bad things happened to the Cheese and my favorite drivers. Again, this week in the cup race, we had Trevor Bayne, who was out like the first lap or two due to something that was going on in his car. Josh Wise had problems early on. Denny caught on fire. Casey King got caught up in the Logano wreck. Just seemed like nothing was going right this weekend for our boys. So hopefully all of that can change. We've talked multiple times about how the Ford engines have run and how they do such a great job. Well, we can't say that from this past weekend. They had so many problems with those Ford cars in the Cup and Nationwide race. Of course, we had Ricky Stenhouse Jr., lots of problems on Saturday, a lot of problems with the engines on Sunday, and so, but it being so far, we're in the 17th week. Now, that doesn't mean we've run 17 races in the Cup Series, but the 17th week of the NASCAR season, and they're just now having engine problems. I think that's pretty good. That is pretty outstanding for the Ford engines and what they have going on in that Ford camp. So that's pretty good. And like I played earlier, to start off, I had a wonderful song with Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s win. And so the end is here. We don't have to ask the stinking questions anymore. When is he going to break his winless streak? Is this going to be his weekend? They've been saying that every single week with this season, and if I remember correctly, pretty much at least every other weekend last season they were saying, oh, this is Junior's weekend, he can get this win, he can break that winless streak. Well, now we don't even have to ask that anymore, and so I'm so glad we don't have to ask that question. And now, just because he's won, and I'm going to be a Debbie Downer for all those Junior fans, but just because he's won does not mean he's getting that championship this year. There are a lot of good contenders in the Cup Series this year, and a lot of them are running really well. They've run consistently well from the get-go, from the Daytona 500 up into now, and so we have a lot of good contenders for the championship, but I do not think Junior will get the championship this year. Next, we're going to talk about fantasy, and unfortunately, I have to claim Cheese as the winner of fantasy this week. We really struggled, and especially since it seemed like half of our drivers got wrecked out of the race on Sunday, and so it was really hard for it was pretty close. We were off by like about 20 points, I think, and so pretty close, but unfortunately I have to claim Cheese as the winner this week. And then next, we get to look forward to this coming weekend, and we have the road courses, the first road courses of the season for the NASCAR Nationwide Series as well as the Cup Series. And so, of course, especially since Road America is a little bit of a distance from Sonoma, California, we have some drivers in the Nationwide Series that we don't normally see, because those Cup drivers that usually drive in the Nationwide Series in some of those cars won't be able to do that. Well, we do have one driver who's pulling double duty. Kurt Busch will be in the 54 car for the Nationwide Series, and he will be running and driving in Sonoma. So it'll be interesting to see what he can do on those two tracks and how different they are. But some of our road course ringers that we have coming up, the Nationwide Series, we're going to have Ron Fellows is driving for Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the 5. Looking at the entry list, we might have a glimmer of hope. It says that Eric McClure is back in the 14th, so I'm hoping and praying that Eric McClure, I hope you are well enough that you are back in the car and racing this weekend. I cannot wait to see you back in the car. We have Jacques Villeneuve in the 22, driving for Penske Racing, and we have 2 regular truck drivers in the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series that are going to be driving for Turner Motorsports. We have Nelson Piquet Jr. in the 30, and we have Miguel Paludo in the 32. So I'm very excited, very interested to see what those two can do. And then finally we have Max Pappas driving for the Richard Childress Camp, and he will be driving the 33. So very excited what especially Nelson, Miguel, and Max can do. Those are some of my favorite drivers, and I'm very excited to see what they'll do on the road course this weekend up in Wisconsin. And then on Sunday, we have the Cup race, and so of course some of our road course ringers in the Cup Series. We have Robbie Gordon. He'll be trying to get into the race in that 7 car. We have, of course, Marcos Ambrose in the 9, driving for Richard Petty Motorsports. Brian Simo, not one that we talk about a whole lot. He'll be driving the 30, trying to get in the field. We have Juan Pablo Montoya in the 42, and then we have Brian Vickers will be in the 55 of the Michael Waltrip Racing team, and see what all goes down over in Sonoma, as well as up at Road America. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Tune in next week. The Cheese and I have a very special surprise, so I hope you tune in to see what we have in store for next week. Hope everyone had a great Father's Day weekend, and hope everyone enjoys the road course races of Road America as well as Sonoma.